Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. Well, here we are. We've reached October and we're losing the light. We're going into winter, but it is a lovely time of year. And I think the intelligent thing to do as gardeners is to allow it to happen, not cut everything back. Enjoy the dying of the stems and the browns and the ochres and the oranges that come through as the month develops. In fact, letting the garden take you for its autumnal ride. But autumn is not just a time when our gardens elegantly fade away. They can be full of colour too. So Carol is taking our new gardeners, Dan and Dom, to RHS Rosemore for some seasonal inspiration.
That Rebecca is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's such a good example of a plant that looks brilliant right the way through the autumn.
And it's daffodil planting time. So we're off to Northern Ireland to meet a man who's a self-confessed daffaholic.
Once you get yellow fever, you want to grow more and more daffodils and you're completely caught up in it, and there's no known cure for it.
Earlier this spring, we took out the box hedging that ran all the way down this long walk. I'm not going to plant more box down the edge, but I want something. It looks a bit bare. I've got two varieties of wallflowers here, Blood Red and Fire King. I love wallflowers, and they are absolutely perfect for a dramatic spring display. Another thing I love about them is they are easy to grow and very cheap to buy, particularly at this time of year if you buy them bare root. Buy a wallflower potted up and it could cost you about £1.50 and even more. Buy them bare root in a bundle like this, they're going to cost between £1 and £2 for 10. And if you're bedding, the secret is to have a dramatic display. Don't faff about. If you're going to go for it properly, and that means planting intensively. And that might mean using quite a lot of plants. Now, Fire King here has got wonderful orange touched with yellow and even darker orange veering into a kind of palish red, as you might expect. And Blood Red is just intense hit of colour. So by combining the two, I'm hoping to get a really dramatic display. When you buy them bare root, as soon as you get them, ideally plant them. If you can't plant them straight away, and I mean the same day, either pot them up or heel them into the ground. Make a slight trench and just put them in individually. You don't need to put them into water. In fact, that's not a good idea. They don't like sitting in water. But best of all is buy them and plant them the same day. Simply pop them in the ground and firm them in well. And to get our dramatic display, the kind of spacing we're looking for is about like that. I want to mix these up, so we'll put that one in there, and then I'm going to get some of the Blood Red. They don't need rich soil. In fact, if the soil is too rich, what you'll get is lots of foliage and not so much flower. And the final thing that I really love about wallflowers is they smell fantastic. And when you have them in an enclosed space like this walk, you come in and it's like dipping into a fragrant pool. It's a real delight. Now, I'm not just going to have wallflowers in here. I want a combination, and they make a great plant for combining with bulbs. And bulbs and annuals or biennials work very well together. The only thing to remember is always put the plants in first, and then the bulbs in the spaces in between them, because if you put your bulbs in first, inevitably, you're going to be chopping into them, damaging them, disturbing them as you put in your annuals or biennials. Now, like my wallflowers, I bought the bulbs in bulk. Now, a 10-kilo bag of martinet works out at about 12p a bulb, and 100 bulbs of Trevithian works out about double that, about 24p. So, although much more expensive, it's still a lot cheaper than if you bought them in bags of 5 or 6 or 10. And the reason I've chosen these two varieties is because martinet has an orange centre with yellow flowers, and that will pick up the colour of Fire King. And then Trevithian is pure yellow, but tall and will rise up. So what I'm expecting to create is a really strong, dramatic effect. The wallflowers will perform, and then we'll take them out in May. But the daffodils should stay and flower for years and years. So go down and put them 3, 4, even 6 inches underground, and that will do 2 things. 1, you'll get a stronger stem and a better plant, and 2, when you plant into here next summer and replace the wallflowers, there's much less chance of damaging the bulbs. Now, these daffodils should look great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them. I love daffodils. But we've been to Northern Ireland to see somebody who self-confessedly more than loves daffodils. He's mad about them.
I'm Derek Turbot here from Port Stewart, and I'm a wee bit passionate about daffodils. There is a disease you can get. It's known by daffodil people as yellow fever. And once you get yellow fever, you want to grow more and more daffodils, and you're completely caught up in it, and there's no known cure for it as yet. I meet all my fellow mates every Saturday. We have a discussion, we rubbish each other's daffodils. Occasionally maybe tell them how good their daffodils are, and it's just very enjoyable. Maybe it's not politically correct, but I could say I interfere in the sex life of my daffodils. I cross them, I put pollen from one onto the other one, I collect the seeds and I sow them. And then 5 years later, I get some flowers. 99-point-something% is probably rubbish or no better than what you started with, but you might just get one that's better. And then you've another wait, because no matter how good it is then, you've only got one bulb. So you've got to wait another few years till that bulb multiplies up. I also would bring them along to flower shows, and there the judges are looking for smooth perianth, bright colours, no muddiness. The one that I made the breakthrough with was one I called Causeway Sunset. And it's nice to know that something I started from a seed is growing all over the world. There's a few other ones. This year there was one introduced called Causeway Torch. I was trying to think of a name, and the Olympic torch was going by at the time I was trying to think of a name, so I called it Causeway Torch. That there's a flower of Causeway Torch. The sun has bleached it a bit, but that would normally be quite a nice pink rim. Do you see the way the broadness of the back petals there and the smoothness of them? That'll be what the show people will be looking for. Generally speaking, yellow flowered daffodils tend to be a wee bit earlier than the white ones. You find at the early shows there's a lot of yellows and very few whites. At the late shows there's lots of whites and much less yellows. But then some of the boys cheat, you know, and keep them in the fridge for an extra week or two, you know. I'm very annoyed because my fridge packed in last week. Number 1, leave the leaves on after the flowers go. Do not tie them up or braid them or put rubber bands around, because that brings the leaves in close together and they don't get enough sunlight to make food to build up the bulb. Number 2, there's a nasty piece of work called the narcissus fly. She comes along and lays her eggs at the base of the leaves. So what I do is, when the leaves are gone down, I would actually remove the leaves and I would hoe over that and stomp over it with my feet to make sure there isn't any, if you like, means of access for the grub to get down there. That's the organic way of dealing with it. Third piece of advice would be give them a foliar feed, because now they've discovered that plants can take in some nourishment through the leaves. The idea is to build up the bulbs for next year. I think the plan for the future would be I just enjoy the daffodils and I'll just keep growing them as long as I'm fit and able.
You've got to admire the kind of enthusiasm and dedication that is prepared to wait years just to see what flower emerges from a crossing. I'm happy just to wait till next spring to see these daffodils come up. But what I am doing, and is absolutely essential, is giving the wallflowers a really good soak. Remember, these were bare root, so the potential for them drying out is very great. You don't put them into water when you buy them, but when they're in the ground, a really good soaking is what they need. Now, when you've planted your wallflowers and your daffodils and given them a good soak, when all that's done, here are some other jobs you can be doing this weekend.
It's a good time to take hardwood cuttings. I'm taking these from blackcurrants, but it would work just as well with red or white currants or gooseberries. Choose a nice, long, straight, new shoot and cut it about 12 to 18 inches long. Strip off all the leaves and then divide each cutting into two. Cut the top diagonally, partly so you can be sure it's the right way up, and also to stop any water sitting on it over winter. Cut a narrow trench, and if you've got heavy soil, add some grit. And bury the cuttings so just the top inch or so remains above the ground. Then leave them because they won't show any signs of growth until next summer. It's unlikely that any green tomatoes that you have growing will ripen if left as they are. But if you pick them and then put them in a warm, dark drawer and add a banana, this will encourage them to ripen over the coming weeks. Check them regularly and use them as they're ready. Now's the time to buy specially prepared hyacinth bulbs, which will give you colour and fragrance in the darkest days of winter. Use a free-draining compost and place each bulb so only half of it is buried. Water them in and then put them somewhere cool and dark.
Check them weekly, don't let them dry out, and when you've got nice, strong white shoots, bring them somewhere bright and warm. A cool windowsill indoors is fine, or a greenhouse. They will grow strongly, and you will get your lovely flowers round about the new year. This is the spring garden, and there is a colour theme throughout it, which is dominated by primrose yellow. There are other colours too, but primrose yellow is the keystone around which everything else works. And I'm always looking for plants that can pick that up. And I've decided to try planting an azalea in here, Azalea luteum, which has got not just beautiful yellow flowers, but has really good fragrance too, and that will flower April time. But azaleas and rhododendrons need acidic soil, ericaceous soil, and they just won't thrive if your soil is chalky, for example, because that means it's alkaline. If you're going to invest a lot of money in an expensive shrub or tree that needs a very particular type of soil, buy a cheap soil testing kit and test the soil first. And follow the instructions. The first thing to do is to dig away the soil to a depth of about 2 inches. And that gets you past any mulch that you've laid on in the last year or two down to the basic soil, and take a little sample. In the kit, the chances are you'll have a little test tube of some type, and put some soil in that. There we are. So we've got some soil in the bottom there, and then pop that in there. And finally, there will be a liquid to top it up with. There we go. When you mix it up, give it a good shake. You do different parts of the garden because although the soil in your area will be fundamentally the same, and the best and easiest way to check that is simply look at your neighbours. See what's growing. If you can see rhododendrons and azaleas and they look healthy and are flourishing, then you've got acidic soil. If, on the other hand, there are none to be seen, the chances are the soil is neutral or alkaline. Well, you can see even after a minute or so, that is distinctly green. And you can check the pH because every soil testing kit will come with a chart, and you check the colour against it, And I would say, for example, that is going to be 7 to 7.5. 7 is neutral, which means that most things grow really well. 7.5 is alkaline. But if it's orange, sort of yellow going through to red, it's fundamentally acidic. So I am not going to plant my Azalea luteum here in the spring garden soil because with a pH of 7 to 7.5, it will not thrive. However, I can have my azalea in the spring garden if I grow it in a pot. And I can grow it in a pot because you can buy ericaceous compost. That's compost that has a pH of below 7. It's acidic compost. As for potting it up, simplicity itself. I've got my ericaceous compost mixed in with a bit of grit in the bottom of a decent-sized pot. Take it out. It's still got its summer foliage on, but this will develop really nice autumnal colours, yellow going through to orange, and then the flowers will start to appear next spring. And the roots tend to be fibrous, and if you're planting it in your garden, they will spread out and cover quite a wide area. So you don't want to dig too aggressively around them or hoe too aggressively around them. Use a mulch instead. It will grow in partial shade, sort of woodland edge type conditions. So it doesn't need sun all day, but does need some. As with all azaleas and rhododendrons, next year's flower buds are already there. You can see them in here forming. And the important thing at this time of year is not to let it dry out. Keep watering it once a week, and then when the leaves change and fall, you don't need to worry about that so much over winter. And if it gets too dry now, that's the cause of buds dropping off before they fully open next spring. So it's worth keeping an eye on that. But very easy to grow, very beautiful plant, and I would expect to have that lovely, fragrant yellow flowering next April, which will complement the rest of the spring garden here, even though it's growing in very different soil. Right, we'll give that a water. When you're watering ericaceous plants, particularly if you're in a limey area, and you know you will be because your kettle will fur up, use rainwater, because otherwise you're just adding alkalinity to a plant that wants acidity. Now, throughout this year, Carol has been visiting Dan and Dom, our new gardeners, and helping them and inspiring them to create their own garden piece by piece. But this week, she's taken them on a journey for some fresh ideas.
This year, Dom and Dan have created their first garden. They've grown some great veg, made a place for their daughter to play, surrounded by flowers. And they've made a colourful terrace area for entertaining. It's been a phenomenal summer, but now they need ideas for keeping their garden looking great right through the autumn. And where better to come for inspiration than my local RHS garden, Rosemore. I think autumn's one of the most difficult times in the garden, but getting out and visiting other gardens just fills you with inspiration and ideas, doesn't it? Yeah. Couldn't do better than this.
Look at this.
This is really stunning.
It's gorgeous.
This is quite a different scale to our garden, though. Is this even vaguely achievable?
Absolutely, definitely.
Yeah?
I mean, you could take any part of it, any, you know, one or two of these combinations.
See, Black Eye Susan, we've got those.
Yeah, the Rebecca.
And actually, they're looking great,
Yeah,
aren't they?
that
In our
Rebecca
garden.
is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's such a good example of a plant that looks brilliant right the way through the autumn. And then don't cut it down, because its seed heads will stay right through the winter.
Well, actually, talking of which, these guys are stunning. These sort of tall, eerie tops are beautiful.
This is Verbena hastata, so it's related to that Bonariensis that you see everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's something you could grow very, very easily. Grow it from seed, you know, and then it will seed itself in your garden. So brilliant right the way through the summer, into the autumn, and over the winter.
That's officially gone over. And it still looks like great.
It's officially
Yeah.
gone over.
Brilliant.
You can fill those borders with that kind of thing, and then you can rely on stuff like
Well, yeah, it'd be great to get some colour back in as well.
Yeah.
Michaelmas daisies. The name says it all. You know, this is their season. Butterflies absolutely adore them.
How long do you think we can expect the flowers to be around?
Flowers last a long time at this time of year, so probably, you know, 6 weeks, couple of months.
Great.
Go for some of the more wildy ones.
Yeah.
Because,
Wildie's good.
yeah, wild is good. It looks after itself. Lots of flowers.
Yeah.
This is what we've got to do.
Yes.
No pressure.
This on a
Something like
slightly smaller scale. How'd you like this?
Wow.
Jungly.
Look at the size of everything. This is incredible. This is what our garden is lacking, I think, at the moment. Slightly subtropical plants. I love it. I particularly like the big
You like it,
leaves.
yeah. Yeah, it does look
At the moment in our garden, everything's kind of cottage gardening, which is lovely. But is there an option
Big
to have,
horizontal.
to have something that's slightly
Yeah.
more tropical? How would this survive in Gloucestershire? I don't know.
Well, I don't think you get away with that plant. That's Tetrapanax, and it'll certainly never reach these giant proportions. You'd have to protect it during the
Still our
winter.
garden. You want one, don't you?
I quite like one.
I think they look great, but do they fit aesthetically with the rest of our garden, which is quite cottagey?
But when you think about your garden, the top bit is cottagey, but your terrace is definitely got that tropical feel already, hasn't it? You've got cannas and dahlias and
we've got
such
nice and
like.
pots. Yeah, you're right.
You're going to have to protect those this winter, but perhaps you could think about, you know, bringing in some plants that give you the same sort of feel, but that are hardy. There's a plant called Cattleya that'll give you just the same effect, but you'll be able to let it get on with it on its own. And there are fatsias that have got just that shape of leaf, but you can just leave them out. And of course, they come into their own at this time of year and extend the season right the way through.
Sounds good.
So we're in agreement then.
You can have them. They're all yours.
Done deal.
Isn't it just lovely how all these trees and shrubs are tinged with oranges and russets? It's beautiful. I mean, your trees have provided structure, but lots more too.
Yeah, I mean, our crabapple has been stunning. The moment we put it in, went into blossom, and it stayed gorgeous throughout.
So you've had blossom, you've had foliage, and now you've got fruit and colour.
Yeah.
But you've also got a space underneath them.
Yeah.
And it's really important in a small garden like yours to exploit every inch of it. What do you think of this?
I love these. I really, really love these. They're just gorgeous, and the closer you get to them, the more beautiful they are.
It's a triceatus. It's an Asiatic plant, but it'd love living underneath your trees. It will live very, very happily in shade. So even when your trees get big, it'll carry on. It's a true perennial.
I mean, one thing that's great about it is you can see it's kind of cottagey gardeny. It has that kind of feel about it. But actually, if you look closely, it has got that nod back to Dan's sort of favourite, more
Shape of the leaves,
subtropical.
Yeah, so to keep you both happy.
Yeah.
You with your tropical yen, yeah, and your cottage garden loveliness.
It's the middle ground. We found it.
Hooray! Whilst it's fresh in everyone's minds, Dom and Dan want to note down all the most inspirational plants from our visit to extend the season in their own garden.
These cabbages were a disaster about a month or so ago. The caterpillars got at them. They looked as though they wouldn't survive the week, let alone all winter. Well, look at them now. They're absolutely fine. And it does show that don't lose heart if they get attacked. Clean them off, feed them if necessary, keep them watered, and they will recover well. And these are looking good and almost ready for harvesting. Now, it's garlic time. Garlic, of course, won't be ready for harvesting until next summer, but they need to be planted in autumn or very early winter. And the reason for that is that garlic needs a period of cold if it's to form a decent-sized bulb that is divided into cloves. I like to grow 3 different types of garlic. Last year, I just grew elephant garlic, and this is one of the bulbs that was harvested. It's dried off and will store for months. And the beauty of elephant garlic is that although the cloves are enormous, in fact, they're very mild. It's a very delicate taste. It's not actually a garlic at all. It's from the leek family. So I'm going to grow them again, but I'm also going to grow 2 other types of garlic. This is called Therodor, which is a soft-neck variety. And here we have Sprint, which is a hard-neck variety. Now, you can't really tell much difference. However, soft-neck tends to be harvested a little later. It lasts longer in the ground, and it lasts longer when you store it. So in many ways, it's easier to grow. But there are a lot of cooks that will swear by the taste of hard-neck varieties such as Sprint. It needs harvesting earlier because it tends to run to seed and form a flower, and it doesn't store so well. So you pay your money, you take your choice. If you take all the bulbs you have and break the cloves into a bowl. Now, what we're looking for are the biggest cloves, because we don't want to plant small cloves. The bigger and fatter the clove, the better the resulting bulb will be. You don't treat them like an onion set. Onion sets you just fix into the soil. You plant these much more like a daffodil bulb and bury them so the sharp end, the pointy bit, is about that deep, like a rich, well-drained soil that's rather alkaline. And space them out generously. You want nice big plants. I'm going to put some elephant garlic in next to break it up, and it can go in a little bit more shallow. Now, I'll just give myself a straight line with this. These will have quite a lot of empty bed between them, right through till about next April, May. There we go. So I'm going to plant rocket in between the rows where the garlic is. And by the time I've used that and harvested it, I can then take it out and the garlic will grow through. Well, that's it today from Longmeadow. I'll see you back here soon. Till then, bye-bye.